Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm so excited to be joined by the wonderful Danielle Brooks to talk all about her role in The Color Purple. And I love how long of a journey you've had with the character of Sophia over the years. And wanted to, in particular, talk about the journey of auditioning for this character because you've had two very different experiences with that.
Hair is
Um,
getting on my nerves. I'm just gonna acknowledge I'm just like trying to fix it. Okay, I'm with you though.
I wanted to start by talking about your audition process with this character because you went through a whole audition process for Broadway, obviously, but then you were re-auditioning for the role in the movie several years later. And I loved hearing you talk about the journey when you were first going through it with Broadway and how you'd just gone through an audition process for Pippin, where you'd gotten to the final round and then kind of had these moments of just a little bit of self-doubt. And so you wanted to do a lot of work outside of the room, which then led you to this beautiful path and getting to play Sophia on stage on Broadway. And I was interested in kind of how you took the experience of what that was for you and that journey into the what turned out to be a 6-month process to get the role in the film.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is spot on. I did audition for Pippin after auditioning for very many Broadway and off-Broadway shows, was not quite getting it, didn't understand why, did take the time, even though I went to Juilliard and studied, I took the time to do more work because there was more work to be done. I held a lot of nerves when I walked into audition rooms and they weren't serving me at all. And so I had to like find a way to like shed that. And to me, that was just becoming more confident in the thing that was bringing me fear, which was the singing, the dancing, being in front of people. So yeah, I pushed through that. And the next audition I had was The Color Purple. It worked out in my favor. I book it and garnered a Tony nomination, a Grammy from that experience. Also, what more so than awards, I garnered like this strength, this power that I didn't know that lied underneath all of my mess. And so I carried that with me through I don't know how many years. We did that in 2015, 16. So 8 years later, I got the call to audition for this, which I was tracking this thing already. My eyes were on it. But I was hoping for an easier path than 6 months. And that didn't happen because I had thought I had proven myself, but that didn't happen. So I had to let go of my ego. I had to get that out of the way and understand that this project, this role, the purpose that I had was way bigger than myself. And so I went through that audition process of chemistry reads with Corey Hawkins, who went to Juilliard we went to Juilliard together, and going through singing Hell No, meetings with the director, writing letters to the director, just out of passion and hunger for the role. And finally, a day after my birthday, I believe it might have been September 18th or 19th, I get the call from Oprah that I had gotten this role. And it's changed my life. It has completely changed my world. And like, I just, I haven't even said it in an interview yet, but like, I am Oscar nominated. It's wild. It's really
Congratulations.
crazy to get to say.
I mean, it's so well deserved because you've done so many beautiful things in how you've captured this character. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is playing a character that kind of requires making larger choices because she has this just effervescent charisma to her, and you really bring that to her at the foreground. And at the same time, you capture that fragility and vulnerability and kind of the inner world of her just as much. And I was really interested in how you kind of approach playing a character that asks for these two very different types of things for you in a singular performance and make sure that you're honoring both of them all the time.
It's where I love to live. It's where I love to live as an actor, in the humor, and the complexity and the deepest of pain, because that's what my life has been. I think about the dinner scene where Sophia has this, in a nanosecond, change of emotion from the laughter into the cry. And I feel like that's, to me, was one of the most honest moments that I had found, because I feel like that's what we do as humans. We find a way to laugh through our pain. We find a way when someone says, "Hey, Mara, how are you today?" "I'm good, I'm okay." When we're really hurting inside. And so I felt like I had an incredible opportunity to show the humanity of who we are. And for me, that's always found in the details. I just love focusing and harnessing in on everything from articulation of how I say respect. That comes from growing up, my mom and now myself, when you really want to get something across, we over articulate our words so that you know what I'm saying, to um, everything from breaking the picture in hell no, to kicking the door in hell no, to just really getting down to the details so that people can see themselves or be reminded of moments from their past, or be connected to who their aunties were or their grandmothers were, or just seeing that reflection is so important. And I think you only find that through the details. And so that's where I live. I love being in both worlds because that's just true to who we are as human beings.
And I love that you were bringing up that scene at the dinner table where it is that moment of just like this guttural laugh from not having been able to even speak words out loud very much for so many years. And then that, the tear that kind of comes out of your eye, because I've heard you say that that was actually a detail, and kind of like finding the specificity of that was something that you really workshopped during Broadway.
Mhm.
And so I was very interested in kind of how you tried different directions and levels to really land on that for something that you were then able to carry over into the film as well.
Well, the thing that I got to craft was the laugh, because I actually did not have the text that Sophia has when she thanks Miss Seeley. I want to thank you, Miss Seeley, for being there for me and when I was feeling down. I didn't have that in the Broadway. So what I got to do was craft the laugh with the audience, who is also a character. They tell me what's working and what doesn't. And I felt like it translated in the film, because what you have is the audience has been waiting for a moment for this intensity to kind of swell down. And you get that with Sophia's laughter, which, as we know, is, to me, one of the easiest ways to pierce in someone's heart, is make them laugh. And so from there on, I just hit them with the real of what's going on and what she's really feeling. Um, so that part was crafted off of there's so many layers. I mean, it's just so many layers. I think of the complications of being a woman and not having agency over our bodies, not being able to have equal pay for, oppressors of the world, always trying to find a way to kill our spirits. I feel like that was her moment of actually not getting to say, "I'm okay, I'm good," but to actually feel, which is what we're trying to do as storytellers and as artists, is make people feel something. You know what I mean? Connect to something. Imagine it's better for themselves or their lives, or see themselves moving indifferently. That's the goal of what we do. And so, yeah, I feel like I grabbed some of that from the Broadway, but a lot of it was also new discovery and a lot of, you know, a lot of different things that helped to craft that, you know, from thinking of people's hurt and pain that we face every day.
And there's such a beautiful friendship that exists between her and between Celie. And it feels like Sophia looks at Celie in a way that nobody else has in her life yet. And she holds that space for her. And there's the line of referencing, you know, oh, like you remind me of my mother and the relationship that she had with my father. And so how did you set about wanting to just create that idea of I'm looking at you and I see your whole self, and also I want to be here to protect you as much as I'm trying to protect myself in the world?
It's a great question because when I did do it on Broadway, I always thought when she did the whole Hell No song and was explaining, you know, all my life I had to fight. You don't know me. You don't, I always thought it was so combative and more of like putting someone in their place. But then with this version and with maturity and growing up and like just you living more life, I realized it was about teaching. It truly was about sisterhood. It was more about like, let me show you and pull you into this kind of world and know that you don't have to take the mess. You don't have to live in the mess. You can stand up for yourself. And I love their relationship because it's a moment where Sophia's been so observant of Celie, which is the reason Sophia's able to even survive the things that she went through, was because she had to learn that survival doesn't just come from being this strong woman physically, but it also comes from an internal strength of knowing when to speak, when to be quiet, how to be submissive, which are all things that she had to learn from Celie to survive jail and prison. So I just thought, and then also to rediscover herself. They both rediscover themselves or have a rebirth at their dinner table when you see Celie stick up for herself and you see Sophia come back to life. The only way they were going to get there was having one another. And to me, that's just so cool. Yeah, I love that storyline and just the fact that we really do need each other and they as they did.
And that's such a great point with what you were talking about of, you know, the survivalism of being very instinctive, because even looking at the first time that Sophia meets Mister, it's like she comes in being like, okay, I'm going to be on the charm offensive. And before he's even spoken, she knows this isn't working and I need to switch. And now I'm going to tell you how it is. And so how did you kind of find the rhythm of a character who's always having to try and move three steps of everybody else? And
Yeah.
essentially it's, if I say it before you can, then I have the power in the situation and I can shift the air in the room.
That's so cool. I mean, there's also a part of her that is still developing and growing. I think a lot of it is just her street smarts. She is a survivor. You know, she does talk about all my life I had to fight my daddy, my brothers, my cousins, all of the uncles, you know. So she's learned how to navigate men, but she's also at that point in her life where she don't want to have to navigate men. She want men to navigate correctly from the beginning. And so she's always at this I think an internal fight that her and Harpo both are having of breaking these generational curses that they've both witnessed within their own traumas and within, you know, the people that came before them. They're both fighting that. But in the beginning, Sophia is still learning and growing. She's like a teenager. She's like 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. So she's like, even though she does have this street smartness about her, she's still learning and she's still like making mistakes, you know, and because she should not be beating her husband, as we all know. But she's really trying to do what's right. And what I've also found interesting is this is a woman who is fighting these generational curses, but being punished for doing so. As we see when she meets Miss Millie and her husband, she is as every mother wants to be, or father as well, be that example of strength for their child. You want your child to witness you being strong. And when she does that, it comes with consequences, almost deathly consequences, where she has to say, get my children out of here, get my children out of here. And so it's just such a complex, complex character to live in and discover, you know, and navigate, watching her, like being in her shoes and navigating all of that, especially as a woman, being one of the first free people, you know, coming out of slavery and having to just fight so hard for her marriage, for herself, for her children, for her sisters, being so Celie. Um, it was what you want as an actor. You know, you want complexity. You want it to be on the page. You don't want to have to like fill in all these gaps, you know. And so I think, to me, I think I'm a testament of that too. When you do have, because I've done it so much where I have had to fill in gaps for characters and writing that wasn't the best. But I think I'm a testament of like, too, when you have all of the elements, a great script, a great cast, the writing. I mean, Alice Walker's book, which just is so detailed and gave me so much to work with, everything falls into place. You know, you get to just play. That's what I felt like I got to do.
And also even just like having the space of a director like Blitz who encourages ideas and trusts in the cast that he's hired to know their characters and to have ideas and scenes. And I love the detail of the fact that in Hell No, it was you that was like, no, she needs to kick through the door. And I wanted to just ask a little bit about the genesis of that for you and the ideation, because I've heard you describe how it came from that training instilled in you at Juilliard of every time a character enters or leaves a room, you want the audience to like still be carried with you and to be with you in that moment. So how did that give you the idea of she really needs to kick this door down in this moment?
Because of the detail of the book. When this is a woman described as someone who like got game with a bow and arrow. She's an Amazonian woman. They talk about her strength and just how she don't take no mess, you know. And so I'm thinking, a woman like that, she don't daintily come through a door. You gonna push the door. And I was just having this conversation too of like, you know, are you an actor that watches your work, or you don't watch your work? And that's why I personally do, like, not on every scene, like deep scenes, like the jail scene and dinner scene. I don't watch that stuff. I don't want to watch that stuff. I think that's kind of indulgent in your own emotions. That's not the stuff I watch for. But there was moments that I watched, like there was a wide shot that Blitz was having when I'm walking into, before I walk the deck into the house for Hell No, and I'm with Celie, and I'm saying, I feel sorry for you, to tell you the truth, and I kicked the dirt. And I remember watching before I kicked the door. I was just walking. I was like, there's no way that Celie and Sophia on this wide shot are just gonna be walking to the house. Like, I need to add an expression of how she feels and who she is. So I said to Bliss, I said, can we go back? I have one more thing I want to try. And that was, I feel sorry for you, to tell you the truth, kick that dust. Because that's how she feels. And he kept it. And it made me so happy, because I was like, now we're getting to like the description of who she truly is, with these small details, or letting the audience member know who they're getting to understand and come in contact with Sophia. So I forgot the question, but I thrive off of getting in the middle of each space of lines, and I thrive off every frame. And maybe I'm learning as I talk more about it, there might be a director somewhere inside of me, because I do that even when I'm watching my peers. I'm just like, oh, in my head, I can't say nothing, but I'm thinking about like, well, if you did that, or if we did that, how much more would we milk out of the story? I think that's for me, milking it, milking it. And I think that goes back to the Juilliard days too. Like when you're just in a white box, you have nothing but black clothes on in a white box, and you're having to create this world and make this world and use your imagination. That's always been so much fun for me. So when I actually have the things, when I'm actually in a juke joint and I actually have a buster, and I have a drink in my hand, like I'm like, let's play, let's go. Like that to me is like the best part of what we do.
I mean, you start the movie in that place where, she's kicking the desk, she's kicking the door down, and then obviously there's such a stark contrast in what you have to encapsulate when she's incarcerated. And, even just that moment where Celie first comes to visit her and she doesn't even respond verbally to anything, and just the physicality of the character changes so much. And so how did you set about just creating those minute details of what it looks like to see that character with all of those elements just so stripped away from her?
There's so many layers that I want to talk about, and I'm hoping I remember all of them. One is getting into a quiet space and just hearing the pain of women. I've just really called on the ancestors. Just like I remember asking Blitz, if we can just have a moment of quiet before shooting, and the cast, or excuse me, the crew was so generous in giving me the space to find what I needed to. And I just closed my eyes and I just wanted to hear them. That's all I wanted to do, was hear them speak about their woes and sorrows. And I think about women like Fannie Lou Hamer, who actually was in prison and beaten and exposed. They exposed her body, after, I don't know if they sexually assaulted her, but they left her there. I thought about her. I thought about, women in slavery having to take from their own baby's milk and, you know, give of their milk to white children that they were raising. Like I thought about all of these just pains that we go through, and have gone through as women, and letting that land in that moment. But there's this one moment where Celie slash Fantasia talks about, as Sophia's been depleted, and her spirit is gone. She says, talking about Harpo, and she starts talking about her children. And I think that was the moment that I decided to lift my head, because that was like a glimmer of hope that Sophia could hold on to, was her children. And I think about that now as a mom, just the sacrifices that we make every day as moms. We're personal alarm clocks and hairdressers and personal chefs and chauffeurs and therapists. And I'm only speaking about being a mom, but not even talking about being a wife. You know what I mean? There's just so much sacrifice that we make every day for our children. And I think that was just the glimmer of hope for her. And then I remember doing this, at finishing that scene in the jail, and having the permission, I felt in my spirit those women talking to me, saying, "Don't leave me." That I improv that line. "Please don't leave me, don't leave me," because I felt that's what the spirits were saying to say. And he kept that in. Um, but yeah, it's so complex, all of it. And I just am so grateful to be the vessel, because it is a lot of sacrifice, giving of yourself that much. I felt so tired. I wrote in my journal, I mean, I just used the word, but I wrote in my journal, after these 60 plus days of shooting, I am depleted. I'm so tired. I had given everything I could give. I was in PT and doing chiropractor for the scene where the white mob comes at me. Like my back went out during that scene. So I had like been the vessel, done everything I could do, because I knew what we do is about service. It is not about ourselves. And the reason that resonates with me so deeply is because when I watched this in 2005 and watched The Color Purple, if those women on that stage did not give their everything that night that I went to see it, I don't know if I would be here. So I feel like I have a responsibility to whomever is watching our version is trying to find their purpose in life. I might be that vessel. So I have a responsibility for their path to give everything that I have so that they can, come to their, destiny and what they're supposed to fulfill in life.
I really, really love that sentiment. And it's especially kind of going back to the idea of what you were talking about earlier with that dinner scene for Sophia and Celia, is just this idea of them being reborn. And, with everything that you were talking about with her just being in this place where she's completely depleted, and then she goes through that moment at the dinner table where she comes back into herself. It's not that she suddenly becomes fully the version that she was before, because she's had all of this life experience that has taken her on a different path. None of us are ever complete in the journeys that we're on in life. And so
No,
how did you set about constructing the idea of who is she going to be at the end of this part of her story?
I think that was the hardest part. I was like trying to figure out who is she after this? Because in the play, you don't get much of that. You just see her go to the picnic and she's with Harpo and they're good. But there was more story when you see her at the funeral, and you do see her at the picnic, and there's a few other moments. So I was really trying to figure out, like, how am I going to craft that? And like you say, we're all works in progress. She's never going to be the same Sophia that she was. She's never going to be that strong fighter that we first met. But I think what we witness is someone redefining strength for herself. And I think that's what we all have to calibrate for our walks of life, whether that's strength or, put in another verb, whatever it is that we're trying to do, we will have to recalibrate that for ourselves as we go along. And that's what I kept trying to find. So I don't know if I found it per se, but I think I try my best to find like how she's now redefining strength for herself. And it's a little quieter than we've noticed. It's not as loud. It's softer, but you can feel like this internal strength now.
And I've heard you say that in playing Sophia, that she's given you so much as a character in terms of allowing you to feel more comfortable sitting in your own power without apology. And I remember when I saw the film screening, and there was like such adulation for you afterwards, and you sat there for a moment just going, I'm learning how to take this in, like I'm learning how to receive this. And I was just interested in, over the last couple of months, how you feel like even since playing her, that's just been a continuation of your journey and kind of learning to sit in yourself differently because of playing her and the response that you've had to her.
Yeah, I feel like I was watching. I feel like I was watching. I was watching. I was watching a sermon today by my favorite pastor, Pastor Mike Walward, and to me, he's more like a Brene Brown. Like he's just a spiritual teacher, and he was saying when you come to like the greatest moments of your life, like the pinnacle moments like I'm experiencing now, get away. Get away. So it doesn't cloud the true judgment of who you are. So all that noise that you hear about yourself doesn't like get you big headed, basically. And so I'm in New Zealand shooting Minecraft right now. And I didn't know it was going to align during this time, but it has been the best gift to me to stay grounded, to stay in humility and stay in the work. You know, I get to go to set on Monday and like put all of that noise behind me and go tell a new story. And that to me is so exciting. I've never been a big-headed person. Um, I've always kind of been like, turtle, turtle. I want you to see me, but don't see me, don't see me. That's kind of always how I've operated. But I'm learning to stick my head out a little bit more, to be proud of my accomplishments. You know, I just feel like I was raised in a way that humility wasn't defined correctly for me. It was in a way of like, you didn't get there on your own and you just you ain't better than nobody kind of attitude. And I think that kind of hindered me in like standing firm in the talent and gift that has been placed over my life. So I think when I talk about Sophia and like redefining her strength, I've had to redefine humility for myself and what that looks like. So it's definitely not the turtle hiding under the shell anymore. It's definitely the turtle that's sticking his head out and saying, I'm here, like Celie does. I'm here.
I love that it's that version of the turtle for you. I mean, you have genuinely you have so much to be proud for in terms of what you've created. And, I think like what you were saying, it's not just about what you've accomplished in terms of this performance, but the way that it's connected with so many people in the different iterations of her over the years. So I just want to say congratulations on being an Oscar
Thank you.
nominee. And thank you so much for talking about this.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful questions.